HOA cops pulled a gun on my wife, not knowing she trains Navy SEALs. Yeah, you heard that right. Before we dive in, drop your city or country in the comments. Let's see how far this story reaches. And if you enjoy true stories that make you think, hit that subscribe button. What started as a quiet morning turned into a scene straight out of an action movie. Two so-called safety officers decided to test the wrong woman, one whose job is to prepare the nation's most elite fighters. But that morning, she wasn't in uniform. She was just at home, barefoot with a cup of coffee. It was one of those golden mornings, the kind that feels almost too calm. The sun sat low, the air smelled like cut grass, and my wife Emily stood barefoot on the front lawn. Coffee in one hand, garden hose in the other, she hummed softly while watering the roses. The neighborhood was quiet, the kind of silence that makes you feel safe. I had just stepped out for groceries, leaving her to enjoy her rare day off. She was relaxed, no schedule, no noise, just peace. She had no idea that within minutes, that same calm street would turn hostile. The kind of morning that begins with birdsong and ends with sirens. Down the street came a small golf cart, white, boxy, and marked with bold blue letters, HOA Safety Patrol. Two men sat inside, both in matching polo shirts and mirrored sunglasses. Their faces carried that look, authority without invitation. As they rolled closer, Emily noticed the way they stared like she was out of place. The cart stopped halfway down the driveway, tires crunching on the gravel. No greetings, no clipboard checks, just suspicion. You live here? One barked, stepping out. The other crossed his arms, scanning her like a threat. The easy warmth of the morning began to fade. Emily kept her posture calm, polite, unsure what this was about, but she could feel the tension building. Yes, Emily answered evenly. This is my house. Can I help you? The man squinted, tilting his head like he didn't believe her. We've had reports of trespassing, he said. You match the description. She frowned. I live here. You can check the address. But they didn't. Instead, the taller one reached for his radio, speaking into it with forced authority. Possible suspect refusing to comply. Emily's heart thudded, not in fear, but in disbelief. Excuse me? She asked, her voice steady. You're making a mistake. The second man stepped closer, the smell of cheap cologne and power in the air. He pointed to her cup. What's in there? Alcohol? It's coffee, she said flatly. Inside, her patience thinned. The warmth of her morning now felt like heat from a fire. Spreading, rising, dangerous. The two men stepped closer, their shadows crossing the sunlight. Emily didn't back away. One of them placed a hand near his holster, a silent warning. The other pressed his radio and muttered, "Non-compliant female suspect." His voice carried just loud enough for nearby homes to hear. Curtains shifted. Faces appeared behind glass. The whole street felt the tension tighten like a wire. Emily's heart beat steady, not wild. She had felt this kind of control before, in training rooms and combat drills. But this was different. This was her front yard. The men puffed their chests, fueled by authority they didn't truly have. She could feel the shift. They weren't here for safety. They were here for control, and that realization sparked something fierce inside her. Calm, precise, and ready. The taller man's hand moved. The sharp click of a holster snapped through the still air. Emily froze, not in fear, but in focus. Every sound seemed louder, the rustle of leaves, the faint hum of a sprinkler down the street. "Sir," she said firmly, "you're pulling a weapon on a homeowner." Her tone was calm, deliberate, impossible to ignore. The man hesitated but didn't lower it. The second officer shifted his weight, uncertain whether to step in or step back. For a few unbearable seconds, the world held its breath. Emily didn't blink. She watched every movement, every twitch. She could feel the danger in the air, thick and real. The tension had reached its peak. One wrong move and this would spiral beyond control. Then came the moment when training met instinct. What they didn't know was who they were dealing with. Emily wasn't just a quiet neighbor. She was a professional combat instructor, a military contractor who trained Navy SEALs in hand-to-hand combat and tactical defense. Her mind switched instantly, from civilian to professional. She analyzed their stance, posture, and distance. They were sloppy, uncoordinated, and overconfident. The one holding the gun had his balance too far forward. A rookie mistake. She moved before he even realized she'd shifted. In a single, precise motion, she grabbed his wrist, twisted, and stripped the weapon away. He hit the ground hard, wind knocked from his chest. The second man reached for his radio, but she was faster. She pivoted, hooked his arm, and sent him stumbling. In less than 10 seconds, both were disarmed and stunned. Emily stood tall, the weapon safely in her grip, her voice calm. "You just made the biggest mistake of your career." Silence fell over the street. A few neighbors had stepped outside, phones already recording. Emily took a deep breath, lowering the weapon and setting it carefully on the ground. The two men lay there, humiliated and speechless. She stepped back, hands raised, calm and composed, not defiant. Just then, a car turned the corner. Her husband pulled up, grocery bag still in hand, confusion freezing him mid-step. "Emily?" he whispered, seeing his wife standing over two fallen officers. She didn't look away. "Call the police," she said evenly. "The real ones." Within minutes, sirens echoed in the distance. When the real authorities arrived, everything changed. Because suddenly, everyone realized the woman they tried to intimidate wasn't their enemy. She was someone they should have respected. The police quickly secured the scene. Officers spoke with Emily first, and when she calmly presented her identification and credentials, their expressions shifted from confusion to respect. She explained every move she'd made, step by step, all within her right to defend herself on private property. The HOA patrolmen were handcuffed, their faces pale with shock. As reports spread through the neighborhood, disbelief turned to outrage. How could something like this happen in a so-called safe community? Word spread fast, not just about the gun, but about who Emily really was. Residents began whispering, realizing how close things came to tragedy. The HOA board scrambled to issue statements, but the damage was done. The patrol members were suspended pending investigation, and the local news caught wind of the story. What began as a power trip was now a full-scale reckoning. The HOA leadership couldn't escape the backlash. Meetings grew heated, with residents demanding accountability. The entire patrol program was suspended, then quietly disbanded weeks later. Emily and her husband stayed, not out of pride, but purpose. People who once judged them now avoided eye contact, unsure how to face the truth. Yet Emily never lashed out. She spoke at community meetings about bias, restraint, and the danger of unchecked authority. She didn't want revenge, she wanted growth. Control means nothing without integrity, she told them. Her story traveled beyond the neighborhood, becoming a lesson about perception and prejudice. The same woman they doubted had taught their community what real strength looked like, and when people asked how she stayed so calm, she only smiled and said, they didn't know who they were dealing with. What happened that day was more than a confrontation. It was a mirror A reminder that fear and power can twist even good intentions. Emily turned a moment of danger into a story of awareness, courage, and accountability. She didn't just defend herself. She opened her neighbor's eyes. If a trained professional could face a gun in her own yard, what chance did others have? Her message was simple: respect, listen, and think before you judge. If you found this story powerful, share it. Let it start a conversation. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more real stories that matter.